Hello and welcome back. I'm your host, D, also known as MTF Doom on Marvel Snap, and today we're going to come to the defense of bad cards. I hope you enjoy. So, I know I'm a hypocrite. I've released videos on what are the worst cards in Marvel Snap that you shouldn't be playing, and I stand by that video and most of it. There's a notable exception if you're a longtime fan of the channel. But I have also come to a new understanding because we are humans and we are supposed to grow and flourish and cringe at the people that we once were. And this new understanding points to this direction of embracing bad cards, especially right now at the start of the season. Yesterday's video really opened my eyes to this. So it's the start of the season. Why don't we play some bad cards? If our goal isn't to win as many games as possible, which right now it might not be because there's so little on the line, why not play fun bad cards? And so we've got some here. You've seen some of these. Some of these have been on the list of cards that you shouldn't play. And I stand by that. If you want to win, these are not the optimal choices of cards for you to play 99% of the time. But yesterday's video about Nimrod specifically and why he's the best card released on Battle Pass so far, not because of his power level, but because of the fact that he is fun and fair and a reasonable include in a lot of decks, had me thinking. Like, it's not often. Heimdall's been featured twice on bad cards and 6-drops you shouldn't play. But you know what? Heimdall in not a move deck, kind of alright. No one ever sees it coming. It's got the surprise factor. And honestly, it's just kind of fun to win with Heimdall. I accidentally won a game with Nimrod yesterday. I put it up on shorts because my opponent Galactused after I destroyered. And so I just had a lane full of Nimrods because I had so many copies of them. They filled the Galactus lane and I ended up winning. And it was accidental, but in the same way, a Heimdall can accidentally win you the game, especially if you're not playing a move deck where it's just completely obvious what you're going to be doing with your turn 6. Yeah. And I wish, I know a lot of people call for nerfs. I think what I'm getting at mostly is that I'd so much prefer to see cards like this slightly buffed, just slightly tuned up, instead of cards that are oppressive getting nerfed. Because the fun factor is much higher when there's a bigger pool of reasonable cards. For the record, fuck Leech. Leech should get nerfed. If Leech is good, the game is bad, right? That's the problem. It's like Sandman. It's like Chalice of the Void in Magic the Gathering. When I was able to play Chalice of the Void as my main deck, the format Modern was at its worst because it meant that Chalice was good, right? The current problem with Modern is that Chalice would be good, except that there are cards that are free that get rid of Chalice. So it's kind of in an even worse spot right now in a lot of ways. I don't play Modern anymore. I might be a little off base with that, but when I left, that was the problem, is that Chalice should be good, except that there's a bunch of spells that you could cast for free to destroy Chalice. So it was back to being bad, but it was also would have been good for the format to have been good. In the same way, when Leech is really good in a certain deck or in a certain format, it means that the format is probably not as healthy as it could be. So fuck Leech. Leech should get nerfed. Fuck people who play Leech. You in particular. I'm not an apologist. If you are listening to this and you play Leech, fuck you. But besides that, my philosophy is that cards like this, like, I know Deadpool's not good. Deadpool as a character is cringe, and as a card is also cringe. But I wish that Deadpool was better and not that all the other cards were worse. Like, I think I've talked about it before, but something like a higher base power but a limit on how many times it could double would be like very reasonable, so that the floor is higher, the ceiling is higher, and when it pays off, you're still like, ah, hell yeah, that was great. But, when it doesn't, it's like, that's fine too. Like, it's not skill tested. That's the other thing, is some people are going to be like, but it's, don't you want better players to get more advantage? Yeah, but Deadpool's not skill testing. Don't kid yourself. If you can destroy Deadpool a bunch of times, it's not because you're a very good player who thought out, their play patterns. It's because you drew a bunch of cards that say destroy. It's not skill testing. I think skill testing cards can have very high ceilings. I think that's a good thing for the game. Deadpool's not that. Deadpool's a bit of fun. Don't kid yourself. Deadpool's just a fun card that, should be fun to play with and around and against. Colossus, when's the last time I haven't seen Colossus in so long. And I miss playing with Colossus because of that ongoing effect of just like, oh, cool, there's like, a minus power area. There's the sewers or whatever. Yeah, Colossus is reasonable. Colossus is fine. But like a vanilla 2/3 for almost all intents and purposes just isn't good enough. Like, I don't know. It's not even unbalanced, right? Like, Sentinel sees some amount of play sometimes. Like, this is worse than that in a lot of ways, but it's better than that in some important ways too. I don't know what the fix is, but I wish I'm just expressing that I wish fun cards like this that had some like random utility were also playable. Currently, this effect is kind of a downside, if only because this card no longer gets hit by Patriot. We actually talked about how we would assume that Second Dinner is balancing energy to power ratios based on vanillas, but the reality is that actually being a vanilla creature, meaning having no abilities, is a slight positive, and it's a bigger positive than not having this ability. That's kind of like where Colossus is that in most cases you would actually just rather play a 2/3 with nothing, no text on it, because it would mean that your Patriot could buff it, and that's not a great spot to be in if you're Colossus. Quake. Like, how cool is this effect? It's just worse than Scarlet Witch in almost every scenario, right? Because, like, if you have a bad location, you want it to not be a bad location. You don't want it to just be a bad location somewhere else. But some of the time, right, if you know that this is coming up and you can like put out enough power, and there's like a Sanctum is one of the 3 locations, and you can just like power up into 2 lanes and then swap them so that your opponent's locked out of Sanctum functionally, but you've put some power there. There's some amount of the time that this is good. Would it be too good if it didn't have to be at the middle location? Maybe, but like, cards like this are kind of fun. Like, I might change my tune actually having to play against a card like this, but like, I think we should embrace it. Like, it's, if anything, if anything, maybe the roulette decks are a good way to sufficiently frustrate the extremely meta decks that even if you lose, you'll feel like you won because you like did some just really dumb stuff to the Thanos deck, like swapped some locations around and made it just abysmal for them to play. And that's good enough. Even if this didn't win you games, sometimes that feeling of smug accomplishment is good enough. Morph. We have another one coming up. What is it? Like Mimic, I think. Something like that. That has a similar effect, but you have more control over it. This is cool. Like, I wish, I don't know. It's tough. It's tough even conceiving of what the balance of this card should be, because, like, it's so high rolly. I guess it's double bad right now because of, again, the Thanos deck. Maybe, like, on reveal, become a copy of a card in your opponent's hand equal to your maximum energy, if possible, something like that. So like on turn 6, if they still have a 6 cost in hand, it becomes that. I don't know, that's kind of awkward too. And then like the downside is it's still a 3/0 if they don't have that cost. That could be cool. I wish fun cards like this were better. I think all of us do. I think, you know, like I said yesterday, Nimrod is the best we got in a lot of ways because it's a fun card that's very reasonable in its power level. And I wish there was more of that. I wish that they would just, you know, slowly buff these kind of bad cards until they were like reasonable in some amount of shells, or even just created their own archetype, right? Like, oh yeah, the crystal type, I don't know, these must be from the same universe or team or something because of the orb, the like energy around their hands and the fact that it's on reveal if it's the middle location. And Crystal and Quake are both kind of earth. I don't know. Is this a what's it called reference? The kids show that adults like, queer adults? I forget the name of it. One of my favorite rappers is a reference to this show and I still forget the name of the show. Anyway, you know, like if this made its own archetype too good, I would be happier than the current state of them not being good enough. Let me know what you think. Do you think that these cards actually are good enough? Do you think that we have enough playable fun cards? Or are you in agreement that there should be more fun cards that are playable and reasonable rather than either completely broken at top end or completely unplayable at bottom end? Let me know down below. I've been your host D, also known as MTF Doom. If you find this content elucidating, enlightening, or enriching, best way to let me know is to subscribe. I hope you have a great day, and I will see you all tomorrow.